Hey y'all, this is Jillian from Maxine Makes Magic, and today I hope you have your walking shoes on because we're going over to the World Showcase. Specifically, we're going to be checking out Karamell-Küche in the Germany Pavilion, and we're going to make this amazing treat that I am seeing all over my Instagram feed. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but there's this really cute sandwich cookie. But not only is it a sandwich cookie, it's a Mickey Mouse sandwich cookie. It's these two adorable little chocolate Mickey Mouse shaped cookies that are filled with Werther's original caramel and caramel buttercream. And I am obsessed with how cute this treat is. I've been wanting to make it, I've had my eyes on it, and I'm so excited that we're finally doing a recipe over at Epcot and in the Germany Pavilion. A little fun fact about me is that Epcot is my absolute favorite park of all of the Walt Disney World Resort parks. So I've been wanting to do a recipe from one of the pavilions now for a while. And before we get into that, I just want to thank the folks over at Disney Food Blog. They're actually the ones that posted the inspiration picture we're going to be using today. As always, I don't have the opportunity to get down into the parks as much as other folks do. So this is something that I'm concocting all based on a picture. So again, thank you to the folks over at Disney Food Blog. If you guys don't follow them, what are you doing? Their channel is my absolute favorite channel on YouTube. I watch it every week. I love giving a shout out to other creators that have worked really hard on their content, so be sure to go check them out. All right, y'all, we can go ahead and get started with making our chocolate cookie sandwich today. We're gonna start with the cookie portion because it does need to chill in the refrigerator for 2 hours, but let's quickly do a ingredient roundup. We're gonna start with our wet ingredients. You've got half a cup of brown sugar, a quarter cup of granulated sugar, half a cup of butter, unsalted. That's really important. You don't want to use salted butter. If all you have is salted butter, use that and omit the salt that we're going to use later. You do not want an overly salty cookie. We also have 1 egg for today and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Moving over to our dry ingredients, we have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/3 of a cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and last but not least, a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. And again, kosher salt, not iodized salt. If you use a finer grained salt, your cookie is going to be way too salty. So you want to go for that kosher salt for this recipe today. And y'all, shame on me. I'm doing a baking video and I didn't switch in my Mickey towel. What am I doing? We have to switch this out. My kitchen is all lemon or limoncello themed right now. So when I'm doing my baking videos, I like to use my Disney towels. I don't keep this one on the stove because I don't want any grease or anything when we're cooking to get on the towel. I take very good care of this one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and before I forget, Mickey towel is on. We can continue with the recipe. Let's go ahead with our wet ingredients. We're gonna go and add our butter into our bowl. This is where it's very important to be using cleanly washed hands, so keep that in mind. Your brown sugar, as well as your granulated sugar. We're gonna start with our hand mixer on low and continue to increase the speed in order to really beat together that butter and sugar. You wanna get a nice, fluffy, cohesive mixture before we start adding in our egg, as well as our vanilla extract to get that really consistent wet ingredients, because after that, we're gonna follow in with our dry ingredients. With our wet ingredients complete, we can move on to our dry ingredients. I'm gonna go ahead and use my whisk just to start combining the cocoa powder as well as the flour. You wanna make sure you've got a nice cohesive mixture. At this point, once you start seeing a lighter brown color, you can add in your baking powder as well as your salt. It smells so good already. I use cocoa powder quite a bit, and I'm never, ever tired of the smell. It just smells so good. All right, pop those aside. give this a good whisk. And of course, we're gonna combine our dry and our wet ingredients in batches. If you go ahead and plop all of this into your wet ingredients, you're going to have a cocoa powder explosion. So just be cautious. Do a little bit at a time, and it'll come together in a nice dark color. It's not going to be the, I guess, more like black cocoa powdery color that you notice in a traditional Mickey like cookie sandwich. It's not going to be as dark. It will be more of a traditional brown color. So if you're looking for that really dark color, there are alternative cocoa powders you can use or dyes. I'd rather not use dyes today. So I'm just going to stick with what I have in my household, and it's going to be adorable. So I'm excited. All right, that is all mixed together. I'm going to bring you guys closer and we'll go ahead and combine the ingredients together.
Another quick tip whenever you're mixing your wet and your dry ingredients together is to keep your mixer on a relatively low speed. We don't want to build up any gluten in the dough. That gluten formation is going to lead to a really tough cookie. So just be sure to keep your mixer on low and be patient. The ingredients will come together, and this is where mixing in batches is so important. So a little fun tip to keep in mind to make the perfectly soft and chewy cookies. Once our dough is combined, we're going to pop it in some saran wrap in the fridge for up to 2 hours to chill. Our dough is completely chilled. We're going to pop it between 2 pieces of parchment paper to roll out and use our adorable Mickey Mouse cutter in order to cut our cookies. The dough was a little bit difficult to roll out, as you can see here, so I did use a press and roll method as best as I could in order to get the dough to a 1/4 inch thick. Now the recipe calls to cut these a 1/4 inch thick, but I would go a little bit thicker than that. Later on in the video, you'll see that the majority of the Mickey ears do unfortunately break off because the cookie dough is extremely soft once baked. I would recommend rolling out your dough to about a 1/2 inch thick as opposed to a 1/4 and see how that works for you. With our dough all rolled out, we can go ahead and use our Mickey Mouse cutter. You can see here that I'm just pressing it into the dough, giving it a little bit of an additional press and then wiggling around until I can pull out the cutter. In order to get the perfect Mickey Mouse shape and cut, you need to make sure that the dough is extra cold or else you won't get the best indentation when you're using the cookie cutter. With this in mind, you'll have to be a little bit patient when cutting out the cookies. You may have to re-roll the dough a couple times, pop the dough in and out of the fridge, all that kind of good stuff to get the perfect Mickey Mouse shape, but a little patience here goes a long way. I mean, seriously, these guys could not be cuter if they tried. They turned out absolutely perfect. Once all of our cookies are cut, we can pop them in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 7 to 8 minutes or until lightly soft to the touch. Moving right along, it's time to prep our Werther's Original Soft Caramels. Place a saucepan over your stovetop on low heat and add your caramels to your pan, slowly melting them down. Once the majority of our caramels have started to melt, we're going to add a splash of heavy cream. This is going to add a depth of richness and overall flavor. Before we can introduce the caramel into our buttercream, we need to have 2 heat-safe dishes where we can reserve the caramel so it can cool. You'll want to split the mixture in 2. 1/2 will be used for the buttercream and the other half will be used to spread on each cookie. Switching gears, it's time to make our salted caramel buttercream. We're going to start with 2 sticks of butter or 1 cup of unsalted butter at room temperature. We're just going to beat this on a low speed and then gradually increase until we get a very nice whipped butter. After whipping the butter on high until it's creamy and has a light color for about 5 to 6 minutes, We're going to use a spatula just to scrape down the beater and the sides. This will make sure you have a nice consistent frosting or buttercream once it's complete. If you start adding in the sugar and you haven't scraped down the side of your bowl, you're going to have random clumps and pockets of butter in your buttercream. And as much as I love butter, I do not want pockets of butter in my buttercream. I want a very nice cohesive mixture, so keep that in mind. After scraping down the side of the bowl, we can start adding in our powdered sugar. We're going to need 3.5 cups total. As always, adding in just a little bit at a time. We don't want a powdered sugar explosion, so just make sure you add little bits using your measuring cup. You can either stop the mixer and scrape it down every time as you add, or you see what I'm doing here. I'm just going for it and adding a little bit of powdered sugar at a time. I don't mind a little bit of a mess. I can always just clean it up later. As you continue to combine the powdered sugar and butter, you will want to stop your mixer and scrape down the sides just to ensure you now don't have pockets of powdered sugar as opposed to butter on your beater and your mixer. We want that really cohesive buttercream. So go ahead and scrape down the sides of the bowl and just continue to complete this process, going back and forth until all of your powdered sugar and your butters combined, because then we can add in our caramel and our vanilla extract. Mixing on a medium to high speed, we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, get that all nice and incorporated, and then we can move on to adding in our caramel. All right, y'all, this next step is going to take a little bit of patience. You don't want the caramel to be super hot when you add it to your buttercream, but it will start to coagulate and become stiff again. So trying to add it to your mixture can be a little bit difficult. It's super important to be patient here. Get all the caramel you need into the mixing bowl, and once you turn that mixer on medium to high speed, everything will combine. Once you beat the mixture for about 2 to 4 minutes, it's gonna turn out to be this beautiful buttercream. It's so silky and luxurious. You guys are gonna be obsessed with this as much as I am.
All right, y'all, we have our Mickey chocolate cookie sandwiches all ready to go. The cookies turned out great. They are very tender. So tender that the majority of my Mickey ears, the minute I lifted them using my spatula, popped right off. So, little bit of a fail, but just from trying one of the ears that fell off, I can tell you these taste just like the outside of an ice cream cookie sandwich, your traditional rectangular shaped ones. It's really, really good. So if you don't mind having a little ear missing here and there and nibbling on it as you're baking, this recipe is for you. And again, this is all trial and error. It's all fun. You know, maybe bake them an extra minute or so. I like to have a soft baked cookie, so mine might have fallen apart a little bit. It's okay. Our caramel, whatever you call it, has been melted down and is ready to go. And I just have our salted caramel buttercream in the fridge. I want that to chill up just a little bit so it's a little more stiff when we go to pipe it. Got my piping bag ready with my Wilton tip. I want to show you how cute a couple of these cookies turned out. How cute he is. I'm so excited to work with my buttercream and my caramel and put these cute little sandwiches together. So let's go do it.
To form our cookie sandwiches, we do need to pair up 2 cookies together before we start any of our piping. In a piping bag, we can take the second portion of caramel that we let cool and add 3 dollops of caramel to one of the 2 cookies from each pair. In a large piping bag fit with a circular piping tip, we're going to add 3 dollops of buttercream to 1/2 of the cookie sandwich. I'd recommend just popping these right on top of the caramel we already placed on each cookie. Last but not least, we'll take the cookie that doesn't have the caramel or buttercream and place it on top of our other cookie to form our cookie sandwiches.
we are all set with our Mickey chocolate sandwich cookies from Karamell-Küche. And this was probably one of the biggest fails that I've had so far in my Disney Parks food series, mainly because the cookies were too thin and really soft baked, so they fell apart really easily. But I am so excited with how they turned out. Chocolate cookies, really good. I might have had an ear or two throughout the process. The caramel buttercream, out of this world. And who doesn't love Werther's caramel? I mean, come on. It will be delicious. I also think these are worth making at home. You probably saw a few areas of improvement throughout watching me make the recipe, so give them a try at home and let me know how they turn out for you. Let's give this a taste test. I don't even know where to start, but it looks so good. It's so messy, but I'm just gonna attack it. I'm gonna go for it. It's so good. It's so rich though. Oh my goodness. I mean, let me finish chewing and get a sip of water. Wow. I expected it to be really rich, but wow, it's rich. It's so good though. Look at the inside of that. You've got your little caramel layer. Probably could have done a little bit more of the caramel layer. But the buttercream is so good. You can see it melting in my hand as I hold it. And it's so funny because that's one of the things that Disney Food Blog had said is it just falls apart, but it's so good. Oh my goodness, you guys have to give this a try. If you loved this video, be sure to like, subscribe, follow along for more. It really helps the channel out. You can also find me at the same name over on Instagram and TikTok, making Disney Parks recipes at home for you. And as always, if you have any ideas, pop them down in the comments section. I read each and every one, and I'd love to hear what you want me to make next. As always, this is Jillian from Maxine Makes Magic, and I hope you have a magical day. Bye guys!